I did what a lot of dreamers do. You pack your car, right, your beat up car, you put a guitar in it, and you go to the center of what Nashville is, which is Broadway. And I couldn't get a gig on Broadway.
Nothing.
Nothing. I couldn't even bartend on Broadway. They didn't want original music. They wanted you to play whatever the songs were at the time, and I didn't really do that. I was a songwriter, so I had to go find a place. So I found a place not far from here in Printer's Alley, which was a seedy kind of area. But I found my tribe there because that's where all the people that also got kicked off Broadway ended up. So I ended up with those guys, and what I found with those guys were these were all old dog songwriters that had written for George Jones and Waylon Jennings and Conway Twitty, and that's where I learned the craft of songwriting from the same guys that came to town and had the same thing happen to them that happened to me, which is they didn't get to go and participate on Broadway. I had like a duffel, a guitar, and the car got me here, right? And barely. I didn't know anybody. I didn't even know where Nashville started and ended. I just knew that I came to the center of it. And for that kid, we tried to build a place that harkens back to the origins of Nashville, to the guys on Music Row that made the town. I want to be able to do a show in that venue that nobody has ever seen, no cell phones. I want to tell stories I've never told. I want to talk about things I've never talked about. If we can make that the genesis from a songwriter, that interests me.
You believed in you, and you were going to do it your way. And then you get here, and they said, no, you're not going to do it that way. But you never changed. Like you just kept your course.
Well, I believe so, and I did. I graduated, had a marketing degree from Appalachian State, and had a job lined up. Had a fiance at the time who was going to be a school teacher at the same high school that I went to.
So I mean, that's like a storybook life.
It was laid out,
yeah.
Right? And probably would have been happy with that life, but there was a restlessness in me that I had to come here and I had to see it, had to try. I just was like a moth to a flame, right? I was just drawn here. And then I got here, and it wasn't exactly what I thought. It was harder.
Well, what did you think?
I don't know what I thought, but I think at that age you're brash, and you're probably the best songwriter, guitar player in Granite Falls, North Carolina, or let's say even go 2 counties over, and you're still the best, right? But it's different here, and I learned that pretty quick. Now, the good news is I got with the right people. I was able to adapt. I was able to learn. I was able to go be around these people and learn the craft of songwriting. That's where all this started. And the interesting thing for me too is you start getting these meetings, you get momentum, you finally get the meeting.
With the man.
The man, yeah. Right? And I get the meeting with the man. And it's part of the reason our residency is called Beat the Devil. But I go into the meeting and I play How About You, which is a song with Sinners Like Me, and I get about halfway through it. And he puts his hand up. Now, the arrogant kid in me goes, he's about to go, yeah, that's not what happened. He put his hand up and went, what else you got?
Stop.
Stop.
That's what it meant.
And I went, okay. So I played 2 Pink Lines, also on Sinners Like Me. I didn't even get to the chorus of that one. He went, play another one. So I played Pledge Allegiance to the Hag, and also on Sinners Like Me. And he goes, I don't get it like that. And he said, you got anything else? And I said, okay. I said, yeah, I got a new song I wrote, which was Sinners Like Me, which is the title track of the album. And I got about 3/4 through that one, and he put his hand up, and I was thinking, shit, this is not going good. And he goes, yeah, that's a waltz. He said, none of this is going to work here.
None of it's going to work.
He said, this isn't going to work here. And he said, I don't know where you're from. I don't really know your story, but I would go back there, and I would try to do something else. I went to my car, and I thought about my options. I thought about the path up until now, the people I'd met. And I had Chris Christopherson had just released a CD called The Austin Sessions. And it's got a song on it called The Beat the Devil. And it's about the exact thing I just went through. So I put it in, and I listened. I decided, I had a meeting the next day with Sony Music. And I decided I'm gonna stay tonight. I'm gonna do this meeting. And if that doesn't go well, I think I'm gonna go back home. And I went to the meeting that day, and I decided not to play the songs that had got this, and I played a song Lightning, which is also on Sinners Like Me, which is about the death penalty, and it's a totally different song than you would ever play somebody if you're going to try to get a deal. And I played it, and I got halfway through, and he put his hand up. I thought,
Here we go again.
And he goes, I'll sign you right now.
Wow.
And I didn't even have to finish it. And it was the opposite of what the day before was, and that kind of led to everything else.
You know, the rejection.
I still carry some of that with me.
I was going to ask that because I read you said that doubt fueled you.
Still does.
Doubt.
I think about that when I play here, this week. I'll think about that. I think it puts a chip on your shoulder that I think is okay. I think all the greatest athletes will tell you that had to be there. So I think that still is something that I carry with me.
And is it something where you want to prove everybody wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's proof for the people that are coming to town. It's also a little bit of a thing of like, hey, don't let those things be a wall. That when somebody does that, right? That's not the wall. You can let that be fuel to get over, under, around, or through that wall. And I think that's something my story's not uncommon in that.
People talk about the outsider, Mr. Misunderstood, and I think that really resonates, obviously, with your fans.
Yeah, because it's authentic. That's kind of what it's always been for me. There's always been. We've never really been overly radio or music row or record label. We've always done things different, and we've been antagonistic in that world. And I've enjoyed that. I think I thrive in that. I think we all do.
Got lyrics
Misunderstood, yeah.
from Mr. Misunderstood. A lot of you're talking to some of your fans who feel that exact same way.
I'm also talking to me. I'm talking to the young version of me. I was, I remember being that kid, the misunderstood kid that wasn't quite like everybody else, that didn't listen to the same things or didn't do the same thing. And then I'm talking to the next generation of what that is and saying, that's okay. It can be a good thing.
I want to talk about the residency, which I think is another way. It's really different, right? I mean, you've got a bar on every corner that's got a country star's name on it.
I wanted a place that I could show up at, no cell phones, no recordings, that I could be in a living room setting and I could play songs that didn't make albums. 80% of the residency show will be unique music nobody's ever heard. And the only place they're going to hear it is here. The only place they're going to hear some of the stories that I tell is here. I don't do a lot of interviews. I don't do a lot of press. So people don't get to hear some of the things that I've had happen to me.
I mean, no cell phones. I mean, that's unheard of in this society.
Yeah, because it kind of takes away from what it needs to be. I mean, if I'm going to tell stories that I'm comfortable telling to you or I or whatever, if there's no cameras and we're just sitting around, I want to be comfortable telling it to them. My main thing would be they leave there and go, that is exactly how I would want to see any artist. Non-guarded, not in a 20,000 seat venue, not just him telling his stories, playing his songs. I've had a lot of stuff happen to me, blood clot, Vegas shooting, my brother died. I've not addressed any of that because I've really not had the platform to feel comfortable to address it. I'm going to address it here. So there'll be some stuff there too. They get to learn more about me, and it's pretty vulnerable and open, and I think that's the best music is.
Well, it's your safe space,
Right.
where you can kind of go there.
And theirs. I hope they feel that. Back to the question you asked, Jan, I hope they feel like that's their safe space too, and that they're okay to feel whatever emotions they feel in that space. Life throws things at you, right? And I'm not different just because I get to do what I've got to do. I've had the same challenges, had the same problems, and it's about overcoming that.
But you were about to quit.
Yeah.
Like you were a day away from driving back.
24 hours away. When he raised the hand up, when I played Lightning, I thought, I'm probably getting out of here tonight, because I was that close.
You had the blood clot, the Las Vegas shooting, like you said, the death of your brother.
It was the first time, I think, in my life I had maybe evaluated my own mortality, but then a lot of other people's mortality too. I mean, the Vegas thing was a hard thing. It was a hard thing to handle. And then my brother died right after. So it was three things in a row that were life-altering experiences that happened within 1 year. So it's the thing you see in movies where the doctor comes in and he drags the chair over and he turns it around backwards and sits down in front of you. And I thought, this is not good. I said, bad news? And he said, yep. He said, you have a massive blood clot. It's about 3 inches. He says, right here off your neck, below your collarbone. And I said, okay. He said, you're going to have emergency surgery now.
Now.
He said, we're going to have to get you to a hospital. We don't do it here. And being a college basketball fan, I said, just don't take me to Duke, which is where they took me, by the way. I said, can it kill me? And he said, today.
Today.
And I said, okay.
It was that.
Yeah. I said, okay. And when I get to Duke, the surgeon was dressed. And I
Emergency
said,
surgery.
Yeah. And I said, we're doing this now? He said, right now.
Oh,
He said, we're going to prep you now. So an hour later, we went in, and the vascular surgeon went in and removed the clot. And then they told me I had to have a rib removed because the rib, I guess I had a birth defect, that it was in the wrong spot and it was injuring the vein. I was really surprised when they told me what it was. I was like, how? I said, I didn't never even, who would have ever? And they said, actually, you're very lucky that a lot of times that this is when a 40-year-old dies in the shower and we don't know why they died, right? We found what it was. You were lucky that it was actually a symptom, that it shut your left arm down, because a lot of people never have a symptom and then it breaks loose and you die, So that was the biggest thing for me, was just trying to process that.
Then a few months later, it was Las Vegas.
It was Vegas, yeah. One of the first shows I played after that was Vegas. That was the hardest thing for me, is seeing those people, and back to the safe space. That's what concerts are for me. You never think about something like that in a concert. That's where you get away from that, the world. And I watched those people that night hold up boots and sing at the top of their lungs, and then 2 days later, deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. Had a lot of fans that had stayed over for the weekend to see all the shows that got killed, and that was I don't know, that broke me in a way. That was a broken thing for me. I don't know, something about it just kind of broke me.
Was it the randomness of it, the brutality?
I think it was that.
Of it?
I think it was the false.
I mean, you were there
sense
2 nights earlier.
Yep. And I think it was the sense of what music has been for my life, with the safe space part of it. I think shattered a part of me. So it still is a tough thing. It was a tough thing.
And then your brother.
My brother was right after that, yeah. So that was another kind of unexpected thing. So after the Vegas happened, he, and my brother is part of the main reason I stayed in town. So he had moved to town to live with me. I was wavering. I was trying to get meetings. They weren't going great. He moved to town and slept on a couch for about 6 months in an apartment to try to keep me involved in the dream and encourage me, and sold hot dogs at a hot dog stand down on Printer's Alley, where I was playing at night. So he was integral to being supportive, during that time of my life. I went through a period there. There's a lot of darkness in that period. But
8 months,
Eight
right?
months, pretty dark. And then it happened a little after that, where you're trying to find yourself and trying to evaluate. But it was really, and what I'm trying to show with the residency here, is it was really the songwriting and the songs that nobody's heard, that I've never put on a record because it was too personal, it was too close. I'm going to play those. I'm going to say, this is what got me through. This is more personal. It was my therapy, right? And
Writing,
I'm not
the
right.
writing.
I'm not going to put this out for the public, but this is what this place is. This place is for this. It's for that therapy, and I'm going to play it there.
How did you work through that?
I got through like everything else I've got through in my life. I turned to the one thing I know I can do. I wrote songs. It's a musical diary.
Yeah.
So my therapy was through a guitar and the lyrics, and that's how I processed it, and that's how I got through it.
You're saying that you could try to bring Nashville back to its roots.
Correct. That's the idea.
So you would be trying to restore what is elemental about Nashville, a town that totally rejected you and said they didn't want you.
But it was that rejection that made me. And I think that's part of what Nashville is set up to do, is how bad do you want it? How much does it matter to you? What are you willing to do to make it happen? I mean, I didn't just hear no and leave. I made myself better. I went to the woodshed. I was around great songwriters. I wrote with great songwriters. I studied. I listened. That time for me was my classroom. That's when I learned. And I think sometimes that's what a lot of artists, and if you go through any story, they go through the same thing. So it's a matter of, some of that rejection is necessary to get you to where you want to go. So it's fun to be back here now.
Yeah, what's that feel like? Do you
Feels
feel
good. It feels redemptive. I mean, it's one of those things where I think about it a lot, that it's just a redemptive thing to be to look at what this is and the care that we put into this place to make it feel that way.